Hi, friends. Welcome to Live from the Roadhouse. And we are talking about um, season three. I never thought I was going to tackle this, actually. I kind of left this as a long, yawning gap from watching the series before I ever really kind of spoke about it on a podcast, because other people are very good at it, and I didn't think I was going to be able to bring anything to the table. But which was also good because it gave me a chance to kind of re-watch it, because I didn't for a long time after it ended. So this is kind of giving me a good way to look at it, and giving me kind of like a different view of it in many ways after, kind of looking at it with fresh eyes almost. So anyway, joining me is a young lady from all the way from the French Quarter of Quebec in Canada. Can you believe the wonders of technology? And she shares a namesake with a very important character in Twin Peaks. So I have to ask the inevitable question: how's Annie?
Hey Frank, I'm fine. Thank you for asking.
That's great, Annie. It's lovely to see you, by the way. Thank you so
Thanks for
much.
having me. Thank you so much for having me. It's a privilege. You've had some great guests on your podcast, so being here is really awesome.
It's lovely to see you and hear you and have you join me. All right. It does give you the kind of like the opening that many would have wanted, by showing a flashback to the original series.
Yeah.
Coop and Laura in the Red Room, and she says, "I'll see you again in 25 years." Meanwhile, which is kind of like a lovely little way into it.
Yeah.
Before we get to the opening titles, so we've got this kind of like sequence happening, building up our kind of our anticipation, I suppose, for what
Exactly.
the first real scene will be,
Yeah, and it's really powerful that they would bring us back 25 years ago like this,
Yeah.
and especially knowing what's coming after that they're still in it. It's I mean, that was the perfect choice that they could make to begin the new season.
Yeah, because that was the idea that kick-started it all off, wasn't it? That line, 25 years later. I
It
think,
was, but at the same time, knowing that they never planned that 25 years ago is all the more powerful. It's like things just happened like this. It's perfect. And the fact that, there was a dream in the old series, there was a dream with Cooper being older. It all makes sense. It's brilliant.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, yeah. It ties it. Yeah, it ties in brilliantly. So we see that, and then we have these a couple little montage bits, like of the mill, the sawmill and the woods and the lovely shot, a beautiful new shot of the overhead aerial shot of the falls, which is really beautiful, pretty, and everything. And then we home in on that iconic photo of Laura's prom photograph, in the cabinet, and then we're in. And the lovely thing is they kept the music the same. They didn't. It's exactly the same theme music. They didn't update it, change it. It's the original theme.
Thank God.
Yeah. As I was thinking, wow, this is great. Even the font, the type, the type still the same.
Yeah. Exactly. Fluo green. Yeah. I love it.
Yeah. So and then there's a couple of new touches to the opening titles as well. You've got like the red curtains kind of swooshing, sort of thing.
Yeah.
And the floor kind of like making you feel kind of disorientated. It's like, the zigzag floors going all over the place, So it's kind of like, oh, this is, well, we know later on how much this series messed with our brains, but I think that was kind of giving us like a sort of starting as we means to go on, with that, disorientating and everything. So anyway, then we get our real true new scene. This is the thing we've been waiting for. How's it going to really start? What's the first new thing we're going to see? And none of us had any clue, really, I don't think, as to how it was going to go. But it switches to black and white, which is something we never thought we'd see.
Yep.
And who's sitting there in a chair but the giant, or so we think.
Yeah.
At this
You've
stage.
got another name now.
Yeah. We got a name later on, yeah.
Yeah.
At this stage, we just think, oh, that's the giant. What's he doing there? And then we see Cooper in the same room.
Hmm.
And so, Annie, what do you think of that, about this segment? Because the giant gives him clues again, like he did previously in the original, and
Yeah.
it sort of sets up the events of the story. Where he's going later on.
Hmm. Well, it was at the first time I saw it, it was very intriguing. And at the same time, I think a lot of people notice when he says to listen to the sounds. But having seen it again now, knowing what the finale is all about, it's all the more powerful. You can really understand that whole loop thing. And now that was the beginning when we first saw that black and white scene. Now we know it's not just the beginning, it's constantly happening or something. He's kind of always sitting with a giant because it's such a loop, so it's so powerful.
Yeah.
Yeah. And also, I mean, I don't want to skip to the end of the episode, but that scene is, instead of having a Roadhouse show, you see that gramophone and the sound. So it's so powerful. It's such a crucial moment in that series.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. It's those sounds come up again, don't they?
Yeah, they do.
Well.
Yeah.
We start hearing them at certain pivotal moments. It's
Mm-hmm.
interesting. That sound comes through. So, there's more to that than meets the eye as well.
Yeah, and in that scene also, he talks about Richard and Linda,
Yeah.
two birds with one
253.
stone.
253.
Yeah, but
Which again, that plays into it very significantly.
exactly. And having having seen the whole series now, the whole Richard and Linda takes another angle that it didn't when we first watched part 1 of season 3. Now we're thinking, Richard and Linda, we've seen the motel scene, so it's all the layers of depth are just adding up now. It's perfect.
Yeah, yeah. So then so we've gone from that kind of like this, the giant gives him these sort of like these clues, or as to what he needs to do to achieve, to get from point A to point B in the story. And so he says, sorry, not 230. I beg your pardon. He says 430.
Oh, that's right.
430. Yeah. Richard and Linda,
it's in our house now.
2 birds with 1 stone.
Mm-hmm.
And Coop says, "I understand."
Yeah.
She's telling a bit. Yeah.
And now we do as well. Now we understand as well.
Yeah. And then he says, "You are far away now." And Coop disappears.
Yeah.
So he's off on his mission, I guess.
Yeah.
So but then we go from go from that to this kind of like surreal black and white to this seemingly mundane scene with Dr. Jacoby, and he's now living out in the woods in a little cabin.
Yeah.
Very humble little life there. It's lovely to see him again, to see Russ Tamblyn.
Yeah. Getting his first delivery.
He gets a delivery, of shovels.
Yeah.
Which later play into it a little bit as well, obviously.
Yeah, for sure.
As we know, yeah. So it's basically just this little scene, really, of this man delivering these shovels to him, and that's pretty much it. We don't get any kind of like much more backstory there. But it's really jumping around from different locations very quickly, isn't it? We've gone from like like the red room, then the black and white, then Jacoby, and now we're in New York.
Yeah, that was a surprise, right? I didn't expect to go to Manhattan.
Yeah, and some beautiful shots of the
landscape.
Yeah, it looks really, really beautiful at night.
Yeah,
they did a great job of that, and it's wonderful. It's very linked because you see this building amongst all these kind of like lit up ones. There's just odd building in the middle there. Standing there. Yeah. It's tall, and it zooms in, so we know we're going in there. But it's our first viewing of the glass box.
Yeah.
And at this stage, we have no idea what this thing is.
That's right.
It's just sitting there in this fairly empty warehouse kind of room, with this young guy sitting just observing it, just very, very still, just
Changing the batteries.
every now and again changing the battery, and then he goes back and sits down again, and that's it. It's pure, like, like drawn out kind of like quiet links, really. The kind of thing you would expect. Holding the camera as long as possible on things. That kind of stuff. What do you make of this, Annie? This section. I mean, it does draw you in, but we have no idea at this stage what's actually going on.
Exactly. Well, now rewatching it, of course, we know what to expect. But the first time I saw it, it was very mysterious and quite a change. You'd expect cherry pie and coffee, but you wouldn't expect New York City with that big room filled with equipment, almost like the FBI would, just monitoring this empty box with this kid that were just like, what is happening?
Yeah.
So we were like swept off our feet. I guess the first time we were just trying to like figure out where he's leading us.
Yeah.
It took a while. It takes a couple of episodes before you actually get the whole thing, right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. But it's building up some kind of like, payoff, I suppose, really.
Oh yeah.
Drawing you in. You think the mystery of this box. What is this box about? What's this guy about? All this. Why is he sitting there doing that? At this stage, of course, we know the reason. But as you say, when you initially first watch it, you think, what the hell is going on here?
Is this Twin Peaks? What is this? Yeah.
Yeah. So we shouldn't really be expecting anything too straightforward. Yeah. But it's
the first time it's really modern as well, because with Jacoby, when we see him, it's like kind of like a trailer. Now we see like super high tech stuff. It looks like we're like nowadays. So that was quite a shock at first.
It was going from the sort of the kind of like the simple life, the backwater out in the woods, to this building in the middle of Manhattan, with this high tech box with all this electronics underneath and that kind of thing. It's an interesting change. Yeah. So anyway, this girl comes along. I don't know if they're together or not. At this point, I wasn't sure whether they were an item.
Yeah, I know. At first, I was a bit puzzled as well, but watching it again, I just noticed how cute they were, because you can kind of feel the tension. At first, I didn't pay that much attention. I was so confused. I was like, who are these people?
Yeah.
But then you realize they're all kind of like giggly, and you can feel like the heat between them. So they're really just adorable. Yeah. With that blasé security guard that's just like couldn't care less.
So her name's Tracy, the girl that comes in, and brings like 2 drinks. I bought you a latte.
Yeah.
Or something like that. So she obviously comes to visit them quite a bit. It seems to imply that they know each other, pretty well. If indeed they're not an item. I mean,
I think she's a waitress. She's like a New York City waitress. So it's like the opposite of R&R, I guess. But maybe she's like New York City's Shelley or something. The cute waitress.
Yeah. So she's very keen, isn't she, Annie? Trying to
She's
find.
Very curious.
Very curious as to what's inside that room. That he's in. And he's kind of like, playing it a bit. He's saying, "You're a very naughty girl."
Yeah. Well, she's trying to almost like breach in with. she's trying to catch the security code to get in. I mean, she should be careful. She doesn't know. She doesn't know who she's dealing with.
But anyway, of course, that particular visit doesn't pay off for her.
No, but he does, though. He gets 2 lattes now. I hope he's got a microwave, because the second one is going to get cold really soon.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Yeah, what's he going to do with them? They're huge as well, yeah. But he seems really happy about having his drink, doesn't he? He seems over the moon.
Yeah, I mean, he must be bored.
That's like the highlight of the day.
Yeah.
The best thing that ever happened,
Yeah.
I mean, because he just sits there, and all he does the only break he has, really, I suppose, is just going up and changing the batteries on the cameras. So,
Yeah.
he needs a bit of spice to his life by having a lady come around and giving him a latte now and again.
Yeah, he needs to have his own batteries changed once in a while,
Yeah.
recharged, you know? Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So, we don't. What's really nice now we get introduced. I mean, apart from of course Giant and Coop and Jacoby, we now go to the Great Northern, which is really nice, and
Yeah.
get the Ben again, Ben Horn,
Hmm.
and he's still stuck at his desk there in the Great Northern, doing the same job he was 25 years back, more or less.
Yeah,
Um,
and something about this, was it a squirrel or a skunk? What is it? There's a little animal. They have like this ridiculous conversation.
yeah, and Beverly, his secretary now. He's got a secretary there, with
Hmm.
called Beverly.
Yeah, a married woman.
Yes, and which kind of opens up a few other things later on as well between those two.
Hmm.
Um, and then Jerry comes in, his brother,
Oh,
and God,
Jerry.
Jerry had a transformation.
Yeah,
Big bushy beard now, and I mean, a couple of people didn't even recognise him at first. And I
yeah, I
spoke to them,
didn't.
who's that tramp that's just walked in?
Yeah, and now he's cooking. He's learned some bakery techniques.
Yeah.
Cooking techniques.
And he's into the marijuana quite a lot. Yeah.
A little bit, yeah.
Said it's,
Super high, like super strong marijuana.
said it's trebled their revenue or something with his little business.
Yeah,
Yeah. So
smart guy.
so it's really nice to see him. See both of them together in that. It was only a very short scene, but it was nice to see them together.
But you understand pretty quickly that Ben is a changed man. He looks pretty serious. He's not talking about, the Civil War or anything anymore.
No,
He looks like he's got his stuff in order a bit more now. So that's good.
he seems to have. Yeah, yeah. I mean, 25 years can change a lot of people, can't they?
Hmm.
It's a
For
long.
sure.
That's a long time to move on or whatever. In your
Yeah.
life, or not
It
move
could
on.
have gotten worse. It could have been a stronger version of what he used to be, but instead he decided to wise up a little
Yeah.
bit.
Uh, um, at this stage, Annie, what else did you observe we're kind of we're going through. I know I'm going chronologically
Hmm.
in a sense from what I'm seeing, but we don't have to necessarily. We can just pick up certain points that you might want to talk about. You know,
Let's be like Lynchian, just do our own timelines.
yeah,
Well, one thing that I noticed, and I don't want to go against what you just said, but I think it's the next scene, or it's one of the scenes coming up. It's when we were introduced with Bad Cooper, who's driving in his car.
oh
I
yes,
hadn't noticed that at first, but I realized that the music that's playing is the same music as when Topa Diane goes with her gun in the motel, and that,
yes,
loud
that's
kind of
right.
so I
Yeah.
thought that was really powerful now, like seeing Bad Coop being introduced like this, it was twice as powerful as the first time I saw it.
Is that song really?
Scary.
It's so effective, isn't it? The soundtrack to
Hmm.
that, to his appearance, his
Yeah,
appearance really works well with it, doesn't it? With
yeah.
his attitude and seeing him for that first time coming out of the car and just blank expression, he's mean looking, dark hair, leather jacket on, you think,
Hmm.
oh, here we go,
Yeah, and now having seen the whole thing, you remember that whole Diane scene, so it's even more meaningful now. He's even scarier the second time around than the first time.
Yes, yeah.
Mm.
So that was it was really cool, and then he goes into that's right, and then he goes into this I suppose like a cabin or a shack or something. I don't know what it is. It's like this rundown kind of place,
Yeah,
isn't it? With these really unusual characters in there, I guess.
they're
Um,
funny.
there's some
They're
really.
like future woodsmen.
It is funny. It's a funny scene actually in many ways. You've got this guy called Otis, who's quite a character. It's a shame they didn't go back and revisit them. I thought they had good mileage. Those characters. We could have got more out of those characters. I was
I
quite
know.
fascinated by them. And I'd love
Yeah, but
to
that's
revisit.
something that's recurring in Twin Peaks season 3. You know, a lot of good characters that you wish you saw more.
Yeah, and I really wish I saw more of those. They were really good. Especially Otis is really good. Uh,
Yeah.
so he comes in. He's obviously looking for like he knows these people,
Hmm.
and then he calls to one of the more unusual characters. He calls out to this woman called Beulah,
Yeah.
and she's sort of giving it the attitude and that and all that, and then we're first introduced to Ray and Daria.
Hmm.
Calls out
Yep.
from the back, and there's a wonderful line when he says, because he's knocked the guy out, hasn't he, outside, and the guy keeps coming on.
Yeah.
The guard, whatever. I think you need to get a better guy to to keep an eye
Yeah.
on the place. And she does a wonderful line, Beulah, because these little characters in the Lynch world, they may not get very long screen time, but they always get at least one bloody good line, don't they?
Yeah.
And hers is, "The world is full of truck drivers," which I thought was
Yeah.
really funny.
I know, it's perfect.
Yeah. So then and then of course, obviously the uh, Ray and Daria are kind of the people that are involved in whatever plan he's hatching at this point.
Hmm.
He
Yeah,
needs them for some reason, you know.
exactly. I'm
So
not too sure what that place is about. You know, to me, it's still kind of mysterious what they're
yeah,
doing there, but it seems a little bit dodgy.
he definitely doesn't look right, does it? It looks like a crack house or something. Yeah.
Yeah.
um, but it's fascinating to see, these new. We're introduced to these new little characters and stuff, Um,
Yeah. And then we get more new characters with, when that neighbor in the apartment building with her dog, that big woman walks with
yeah.
her tiny little dog.
There's some real funny scenes in that. Yeah.
That is just so funny. Like the whole scene with the keys and the police there, and the guy who worked like the building attendant. I mean, the whole thing is so absurd. It's perfect.
It is. It's brilliant. Um, the really shocking part happens, though. Well, one of many actually in the series. Shockingly violent scenes. I mean, is we go back to the glass box again.
Yeah. Oh
Uh,
yeah.
this time around, things have changed a wee bit because the security guard is now missing from his desk,
Hmm.
and the place seems to be empty apart from Tracy visiting again with her 2 drinks.
Yeah.
Uh, and Sam, I think, is the guy's name, isn't it? The young
I
fella.
think so. I'm really bad with names, but I think you're right.
I think, yeah, yeah, yeah. And now, of course, because the guard's not there, it's her opportunity to kind of get round Sam and get into where she wants to see. She's curious about this room. So
Yeah.
he finally says, "All right, well, I suppose it'll be all right then."
Curiosity killed the cat, as they say.
Yeah, which is the worst mistake that she makes, going in there.
Yeah.
Um,
And I wonder, if I read on, I don't know if it was Reddit, but somebody asked if the fact that they were having intercourse maybe triggered the mother when she gets in the cage, and Mark Frost was kind of like, maybe not, But I'm wondering if the guy had been alone, if she would have showed up and killed him. Probably. She probably wants to kill anybody, but I think maybe she was even more violent because they were so lusty.
Yeah, I think so. I think it goes back to that thing about it goes back to the Garmin
The
Bozier in a
ritual.
sense, like feeding off something.
Yeah.
In that way, it was feeding off fear and raw emotion, wasn't it?
Hmm.
Garmin Bozier, that was their substance. Fear and sorrow, wasn't it, or something like that.
Exactly. Yeah.
So perhaps this is just another kind of it's another emotion. It's another higher intensity, isn't it?
Yeah.
When
Sure.
you're in the heat of the moment like that, I suppose that was something that was triggering it as well, as you said.
Yeah. And it's mysterious that the guard is not there this time.
It's very unusual. Why wasn't he there? Unless that thing got to him and killed him. I don't know. How did it? I don't know. Can it
Oh,
materialize?
it's like he knew not to, he knew something would happen on that night, and he doesn't care about the kid who's being paid like minimal wage to
Yes,
change
yeah.
camera batteries. But yeah, good for him. I hope he's having a happy life right now. That security guard.
Yeah, what a horrible bastard. Yeah. um, um, but of course, it really is quite intense, this scene. And that's why it's going to be remembered, like many other things later on, for a long time, I should think. Anyway, they're caught up in the heat at the moment. This apparition appears. I mean, it's not quite human, but it's human shaped. It's human form, but it's not quite right. You know, it's kind of what it looks like an alien. Sometimes you think, what is this?
Yeah.
Because it hasn't got any specific features, facial features or anything.
But it looks like a woman.
It looks
Kind of
like
like
a woman.
alien
There are
woman.
breasts and stuff, but we're never quite clear as to what this thing is. You know, at that point, you know. It just seems to be this kind of phantom, and
It was pretty scary.
yeah, it appears in the box, and it's kind of shuddering and juddering, and it busts through the glass, and it does the most crazy killing on both of them. Absolutely butchers them, doesn't it? It sounds like a big, and it sounds like a buzzsaw going. It's, you know,
Yeah.
what the hell?
It hurts.
It was really, really, you know, powerful, really. So they get, the poor couple, and they were sweet, get absolutely annihilated by this thing. And that's kind of the end of them, those characters, you know, at that point. And now things are going in a different direction, Annie, because we're now into this Buckhorn, South Dakota.
Yeah.
Which we're going to see an awful lot of as we go along. And that was what you were saying about earlier on with Marjorie and her dog. You know,
Yeah.
yeah. This is when we see Marjorie. Yeah, and, the dog is picking up on the scent in one of the apartments there where she lives. And something is not right, you know. So she calls the police, and she's all frantic. She's very funny on the phone, you know. What's my address? I can't remember it. All this, you know, stuff going on. But the police eventually get. They're quite funny as well in a way. The two policemen. You know, there's some funny sort of scenes in that with those two, and the kind of misunderstandings and the fact she can't find the keys to the room and. Well, so-and-so had it. Where is he? I can't remember, you know. All this stage, all this banter, you know.
Yeah, it's exasperating.
But eventually they do get the keys. And
yeah, it was around like her arm the whole time, basically. Anyway.
After all that, giving them a wild goose chase before that, yeah. But then we saw, of course, we see the body of the woman that's Ruth Davenport. But what's really unusual about it is that the fact that there's a head there, but there's a man's body kind of attached to it as such, you know, well, just underneath her head. You think, oh, right, this is intriguing, you know.
Yeah.
What the hell's going on here? So, what do you make of all that, Annie? I mean, that was quite a very unusual kind of killing, you know.
Yeah, and the fact that it's staged like this, and even like Major Briggs' body, the way it's positioned.
Yeah.
It's almost like, I never thought of this. I should look at the image again, but it reminds me of the statue almost, in like the Venus of Milo.
Yes.
Like that's in the red room.
Some way they were kind of like trying to do a horror version of that.
Inspired by that.
It sort of is, isn't it? Yeah, because the way the arms are like that. Yeah, you know, that kind of thing. Yeah. It does have a little bit of that. Yeah.
Kind of feminine. Yeah.
And then we're introduced to Matthew Lillard's character, Bill Hastings.
Yep.
Because they've been looking up and found loads of fingerprints all over the body, and some of which are his. and he happens to be the high school principal as well. So he's like, he's a well respected kind of role in the community. They come and arrest him at his house, and he has
But
no.
they have people coming over for dinner.
Yeah.
That can be happening.
That's just a pure kind of comedy moment they throw in, light-hearted moment. But it's because he has no idea what's going on. He's, why am I being arrested? Blah blah blah. And he's taken and he's questioned.
But then he's got no idea, but at the same time, he's withholding stuff, probably just because he doesn't want to admit having an affair.
Yes.
But he gets in so much, like if he was transparent from the start, that would end up like this. But he's just, no, I don't know her. I don't know where she lives. What?
He kind of ties himself in knots, doesn't he? The more he sort of he stumbles on his words, he digs a bigger hole, for himself. It's kind of like
he needs a goat shovel now to get out of the mud.
Yeah. But she's quite a canny one, Phyllis, is what his wife, because she's having an affair, with this guy called George, who happens sadly to be Bill Hastings' lawyer.
Bad luck.
That's not going to work. That's not going to go. That's not going to end well, is it?
No, it's not. And his wife is such a fascinating character in a way because she is so cold. Like the look on her face the whole time.
Yeah.
The more you see her, the more you despise her. At first you don't. You're just like, oh, she seems confused. But then you realize like how she despises her husband, and she has for a while, And
the way she just really, really horribly says to him, "Prison life, prison life, Bill."
Yeah, she planned the whole thing.
She's not very pleasant, no. But as it transpires, Annie, of course, she gets a comeuppance,
Yeah.
Because
she was expecting her lover to come and visit. What she basically said in front of the sheriff almost. And then she gets a surprise and Mr. C is there.
Yeah. And he says, you did well, or something, you've done good.
Yeah.
To her, yeah.
Something like human behavior or how she... That's really puzzling. It's still puzzling to me because at some point people were thinking she's a tulpa because of that glitch that you see as well when she gets shot. Yeah. And the whole like you understand, you follow human behavior perfectly or something like this.
Yes, that's right.
But I think she's actually a human being, so that's why I'm not sure why he says that. I'm still puzzled. Maybe she's just into like sorcery or something.
Probably because he's not really human. Or he doesn't quite get human emotion. He's not the same. Yeah. He's got a different kind of mindset because he is just a double, isn't he? He's a doppelganger. So he's not quite a proper full.
Probably because she needs. Yeah, he wants and she needs.
Yeah. Which he brings up, doesn't he? He says about that.
He does, yeah, when they're having dinner with...
I want, he says that to Ray and everyone, and makes a point of it as well, in the diner earlier. That was earlier on, yeah. But he shoots Phyllis, and he does say this is George's gun. So his hands are... So it looks like George is going to be framed at some point.
Poor George.
Yeah. But so then we're coming to the end at this point, Annie. So
well, there's also the lug lady who calls. She gives a phone call to Hawk.
Oh, of course, yes. But that's the first time we see the log lady in the new series. A lovely little scene with her and Hawk. And she's kind of like setting up a few plot things that will happen later on as well. With her clue, she said the log has something to tell you. I have a message to tell you.
And, and I wasn't aware, like in the first series, that they were so close. the
Yeah,
Log Lady and Hawk, but from that scene, you understand they have like a special bond together.
you could kind of see that would kind of happen over the 25-year period though, because
Hmm.
he's very in touch with the spiritual side and all that kind of stuff. I could see why they would become.
Yeah,
There would be a bond
incredible.
between them. You know.
Sure, for
Uh,
sure.
um, but it's a lovely, sweet moment, and it's really, and even though it's kind of heartbreaking, it is heartbreaking to see Catherine's Coulson not well, on
Mhm.
screen. It's also wonderful that she got to come back for that one, that those last few scenes again.
Yes, yes, and we can't even separate the actress from the character at that point. They're just like bond together in a way. You're sad for the Log Lady, you're sad for Catherine. It's super powerful, and we're lucky to have her as well. If things had been delayed even more than they had, I
Yeah.
mean, maybe we would have missed that chance. So
Yes,
that was cool. Yeah.
it was. Yes, that's right. So it was really lovely to see Catherine, and I thought that even though the scenes were shot completely separately and just edited together, they weren't in the same place at the same time.
Hmm.
Michael Horse and Catherine. It was lovely. The interplay was beautiful between the two of them, and we're lucky to get see a bit more of that later on again. Which is really nice.
Yep.
Um, Bill gets taken to. I'm not sure if this is the next bit. I'm sorry, I'm losing track a wee bit. But Bill gets put in a holding cell, doesn't he? Afterwards, he takes him from
Yes.
the interview room to a holding cell. So now he's behind. You hear the thing slam. That's giving him like, oh shit, this is a reality check now.
Yeah, with his hair, the
Oh
sound
no.
it makes. Yeah, that's like the beginning of episode two, part two, and you can hear like on his head. It's really kind of powerful and freaky, and you can feel his despair through that sound.
Yeah, yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, it's pretty scary. I mean, it's frightening. Reality suddenly thinks, "Oh man, this is real now. This is real. I'm in
Yeah.
trouble here." You know. Um, so yeah, we get a little bit, but just before the end, we go back just very very briefly and see the giant again, and it zooms in on the gramophone that you had there. Listen to the sounds. You
Yeah.
get that little scratchy sound again, and that's where the episode one ends.
Hmm.
So wow, we've
I think we've covered a bit of part two in our part one talk, but it's okay. We're just being like very artistic.
yeah, things yeah. I mean, well, bearing in mind Annie, as you said, as we know, it was one long 18-hour movie initially,
Yeah.
just broken up into parts. So things just will sort of merge every now and again.
Totally.
Uh,
Yeah.
and now we're on to part two. And as you mentioned, Annie, that segment of Bill in the holding cell,
Hmm.
holding himself like, and he's kind of like, oh God, what's happening? What's happening? He's holding his hands to his head. It's quite we think, oh, this man's in deep trouble here.
Yeah, and he knows now. He's
He knows,
aware.
yeah, yeah.
Oh,
So Phyllis, the wife, turns up, and she seems, quite happy
lovely woman.
about him being in there.
Yeah.
As we touched upon that part anyway, yeah. And then there's a bit.
Well,
Sorry, were you going to say something?
I was just gonna say the only thing we haven't covered about that is when she leaves, and that's when you see one of the woodsmen just
Yes.
with his super scary huge eyes, and then he just sort of floats away and disappears.
Yeah,
I mean,
and his head floats up to
yeah,
his head just floats up to the ceiling and then just evaporates.
yeah,
It's
with
the most
his eyes
strangest
that
little
never
scene.
blink.
It's a really odd little scene. You think, and then we're all wondering, what is this character about?
Mhm.
What's the connection here? Why are we suddenly just seeing this random moment? In the cell with this strange character.
It's just surveillance, really, and especially after having read the final dossier. Like, it's just an agent. It's just they've put a trail on him, and they're just surveying him so that they can eventually finish him at some point.
Yeah.
Crazy.
It was a very odd one, that. Yeah. So it's our first. It's actually, not our last, but our very first view of the woodsman, or a woodsman.
Yeah.
But we will be revisiting these strange people a lot more as the series goes on.
Yeah.
But it's sort of enticing little moment as to what this is about.
Yeah, and the fact that he's in a cell, but this guy can float like in and out of there is, it. How can I say? You're prepared. Like, this guy is stuck in a cell, and yet this strange person full of soot in his face can just come in and out like this. It's very
bit worrying that he can just get in there, whenever he wants. It's
exactly.
very, very
He's all the more scary because of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, like a dirty ghost.
Yeah, very, very strange. Yeah. But we then where are we?
Well, I think after that, it's
that was the bit. Sorry, that was the bit where Bad Coop kills the wife.
Yeah.
Right, because she's just left gloating about Bill. Left the cell.
Yeah.
And she's going to go and meet George later on and all that, and thinks everything's hunky dory. Now you've got him framed. He's behind bars. And blah blah blah. Everything's lovely. Then Bad Coop, of course, turns up and ruins everything for her and shoots her. So that's the bit we've done before. Yeah, that's right. What's next?
Then I think.
Can you pick this up?
Well, I think that the next part we've also covered a little bit, but we can actually elaborate maybe. But I think then it's the scene where they're having dinner with Bad Cooper, Ray, Daria, and Jack, the mechanic, who's eating like 3 plates of spaghetti, not saying a word.
He's shoveling it down his neck.
Does he never eat? Like, was he paid to deal with that car with food only? I'm not sure. It's intriguing.
Yeah. And he has a sticky death, doesn't he? A strange death. Where Cooper, Bad Coop, sort of just starts squeezing his face. And,
he's such a puppet master. That's what I get from it. It's very humiliating the way he just plays with his face like this.
Yeah. And he just sort of stands there kind of transfixed or something. Yeah.
With that car. Anyway, I'm not going to get into that, but that car that we'll see later on in the series, it's quite mysterious. Seeing, at first I didn't care about that car the first time I saw part 2, but now I'm like, is Bad Cooper planning this? Does he know that in some other dimension, Good Cooper will need it? I'm still struggling with those ideas.
Yeah. We see the log lady again in this one.
When Hawk is in the woods.
Yeah, which is kind of intriguing. So it looks like it's skipped in time a wee bit, doesn't it? This section, a little bit. I think we're going. We're going
the next day, or.
But it's intriguing that he comes across Glastonbury Grove.
With the curtains.
And the curtains keep appearing, and he's looking at this. Is he really looking at that, or is that just the audience perspective? I'm never quite sure.
I think it's the audience. Yeah, it doesn't seem to, because otherwise he would have done something about it. It'd be like, I saw a bunch of curtains in the.
And he may well have gone in as well, because he's quite curious. I imagine he would have done.
That's right, and the scene after that. I mean, Mike might be talking about Laura, but he says someone is here. So I was thinking, is he talking about Hawk, or is he talking about Laura, who will just show up in a second?
Yeah.
I think they're keeping it ambiguous.
It was very much so. That scene, and we never go back and explore that scene.
What do you mean?
I mean, him going to Glastonbury Grove. We never see what the payoff to that is. We never go back
Exactly,
to
you're
that
right.
bit. 'Cause she asks him, or she says to him, "Tell me what you find," and we never explore that.
Exactly, and I think that's when she says, this, that the stars turn and the
And the
moment.
time presents
I,
itself. Yeah,
Thank you.
yeah,
Exactly,
yeah,
exactly. So I think having like seeing it for the third time now, it sounded differently than the first time I heard it. At first, I thought, something is gonna happen, like Cooper is gonna get out of there, but now I notice it's kind of like he was supposed to get out, but things turned and he can't get out the same way that he was supposed to do.
yeah, yeah.
So I think, I don't know, did her log warn her that things would change? It's still quite mysterious to me exactly what the log lady knows and what she told Hawk, and what Hawk does with all that information. Does he just write it in his diary, or does he tell anybody?
He's got his secret diary as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
We we go back to Coop, and he meets the one-armed man.
Yeah.
He's
Is
intrigued.
this future or is
Or
this
is it past?
past?
Which you get that comes up. I mean, that was in the original series, but it also comes up a few times in this series.
He says it twice actually in that episode only.
Yeah,
So it's so great. I love that sentence. It's the best question ever.
it is, because there's so much you can do with that line. You know, you can play around with narrative so much with that.
Yeah.
But Coop meets Laura in the Red
Yeah.
Room, or not, well, an older Laura, or in fact, we don't really know which version of Laura this is.
It's like two versions in the same scene, right? It's like
Yeah,
her arms bend backwards and she knows Laura, and then her name is Laura and she's dead, but yet she lives.
yeah.
Hmm.
So poor Coop is, completely bewildered.
Yeah.
Which is the
But she
audience.
says you can go now. She does
Yeah,
say
you
that.
can go now. Yeah. So he's preparing to get out of there, or so he thinks. He's going to escape from the lodge.
Hmm.
And then they meet Michael J. Anderson's replacement, which is in the form of a tree, which has lights on it and stuff, and like a chewing gum head. Yeah, which talks.
Yeah.
And this is the evolution of the arm. This is our first new look at this new spin, shall we say?
And he calls him like this. Mike says, "This is the evolution of the arm." It's like,
Yeah.
oh, I didn't know there was an evolution coming,
Yeah, so
but
it's like just
that's
accept
nice.
it, accept what you see. Yeah,
Yeah.
you
And
know.
having seen the finale now, again, there's this sense of a big loop. The fact that he talks about do you remember your doppelganger? But
Yeah.
in the finale, it was the little girl who lives down the lane. But
Yes.
that makes that scene even more significant now that you rewatch it in part two.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And also, just before he meets the evolution of the arm, with Laura, it's funny. I hadn't, when she kisses him and she whispers in his ear, which is also, as we know, a super significant moment.
Yeah.
I didn't notice before that you can actually hear her say whisper and then like something, but I hadn't noticed, but I hear Laura say whisper. So I'm
Really?
like, why would you whisper in somebody's ear and say whisper? I'm not sure.
I never thought that. I
Um,
could never hear what she was saying. Yeah.
yeah, I think it's just like those um, earplugs that I have now. Like they're just really powerful, or maybe I just listen to my stuff on a high volume. But yeah, um, yeah, and then she screams and she just disappears, and the curtains open, and then you see that horse.
Yeah. You see the white
Um,
horse. The white horse. Yeah.
and then Mike reappears again and asks, "Is this future or is this past?" Like twice.
Yeah.
And then, as you said, we meet the evolution of the arm.
Yeah.
That's cool. I love the evolution of the arm. Although, like, he's got a doppelganger, but which one is evil? They both look super evil. But then one of them, isn't it the doppelganger that will eventually tell him how to fight that little what's his name? The guy who tries to kill Dougie at some point. Like, I feel like it's the bad.
Oh, the Spike.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I feel like it's the doppelganger evolution of the arm that helps him. So is he good or is he bad? It's really
At that
puzzling.
point, it's very, very ominous, isn't it? Because
Uh-huh.
it looks like it. What's really intriguing is how can you? I'm not sure how you can have a doppelganger uh, of an inanimate. Well, then again, you've got a tree, so anything's possible. But
Who's an arm? Who was a little
of an
guy who liked
inanimate
dancing.
statue can be a doppelganger and change into
Yeah, the
tree.
fact that he's
That's
hiding
kind
is
of
disguised as the statue.
yeah.
You're right. I was puzzled by
That's kind
that
of
as
strange.
well. It is super strange.
It's a statue. I mean, how can it? You know, it's not a living
Magic,
thing. You
black
know,
magic.
yeah.
That's the only solution. It's the only explanation.
Yeah. Definitely weird that bit. Yeah, yeah. Even by Lynch's standards, that was strange. Um,
Yeah, and the floor, the black and white that separates those zigzags, it separates, and then he
yeah.
just falls into the water, which becomes New York City. And then
He goes into this. He falls into this like this black pool. I'm assuming that's like the black oil, maybe. You know
oh, maybe, yeah.
the oil of
I didn't think.
that we have. You know the
Uh-huh.
pork shanking
Yeah, the
oil.
scorch oil.
Kind of reminded me of that.
Interesting.
Because it was he went into like a pool, didn't he? In like a black
Yeah,
pool, liquid. But then when you see him, when you see him flying, looks like he's going
mhm.
through space.
Yeah, exactly.
I think that's okay. Yeah, where are we? Is he under? Is he under? Is he in the under the pool of this liquid, going down and down and down really fast, like as if he's going through the ocean, or is he
Exactly.
or is he flying through space? It's kind of strange. You know,
It is super strange.
yeah,
And then he ends up on that glass, like just next to the
yeah,
glass box, and he
just plops through it.
yeah, basically, yeah. And then he's like floating, kind of, and he has like this innocent face, like kind of, oh, where am I? What
Yeah,
is
he's
this
like
place?
looking around very serenely. It seems almost.
Exactly.
And then it's a really funny kind of effect where
Yeah,
yeah, he just sort of goes back like it was really clever. That was good. That
it's very
what's
strange.
intriguing about that is that when he enters the box, the couple are not there. The young couple.
Yeah,
It turns
they're
out that the time we see it in a different time.
mhm,
The times again, it won't be the first time that the times have shifted around. But that was the moment when they were outside looking for the guard.
exactly.
And that's when Coop enters, and then when he disappears, they come back in. So it's just before they get killed. So we're going in reverse. It's interesting.
Exactly. It's funny how, like, in part one, we were completely unaware that Cooper wasn't there,
Yeah.
and now we notice and we know what follows next, right? The mother who's just trying to catch him.
Yes. Oh yeah. Yeah. Um, Annie, where are we now?
Well, according to my notes, I might have skipped some parts, but I think it's Mr. C with that car with the face. We mentioned that when he
Yeah.
plays with that poor guy's face before he kills him.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then he gets to the motel where Daria is kind of being caught on the phone talking to Ray.
And they've been
Uh,
plotting with someone to have Mr. C killed.
exactly. I
And
wonder, is
he's
she
on
like a double
he's on
agent
to
as
her.
well? I wonder what about Daria, like, or maybe she's just a criminal. I'm not sure. When I
Yeah.
watched it, anyway, yeah, I'm not gonna digress on that. But what a long scene, and he's so like Mr. C is kind of tender with Daria, like although he's like, "Yeah, honey, I'm gonna kill you," but the way he says it, it's like you can tell he's talking to a girl, He talks to her kind of like she's a child almost, like he's
Yeah.
like trying to reassure her, and yet not really giving a damn at the same
At
time.
the same time, yeah. I mean, he does get quite heavy. I mean, he does get quite violent with her
Yeah,
as it
definitely.
progresses. He bangs her head against the panel
Yeah.
behind the bed and stuff like that. And then
And he plays that tape before he does, just
yeah,
like to freak her out so that she realizes he's known the whole time that she was lying to him.
yeah,
And yeah,
He wants her to sort of like sit in fear and just like hear everything. That
yeah,
and I think he's relishing that. This
for
is you're
sure.
going to hear. Everything you've been plotting about me before you die.
Yeah, that's his treat.
And of course, the death is violent. He puts a pillow over her face and shoots her.
You can see the
Point blank.
smoke when he removes the pillow. You can still see that smoke go out of her head.
Yeah. So he's pull it back, just check to see if she's really dead. She has to
Yeah,
have a look again.
yeah.
Which of course she
Then
is.
he, yeah, and then he takes that mysterious suitcase with his fancy computer, tries to call Philip Jeffries
Yeah.
or whoever that is.
I suppose. Yeah. We're not sure at this point, and even he isn't really sure, is he? If it is Jeffries or not. It
But it
doesn't
can't
sound.
be Jeffries because he doesn't have his number, remember?
Yeah.
Jeffries said that, so
Yeah. So yeah. So that's kind of intriguing.
yeah. And then he goes to the other room and Chantal is there and she's so
Yeah.
happy that her competition is gone, even though like she's married.
Yeah.
And she's like, yeah, okay, I'll go clean it up. No
Yeah.
worries.
So then he says, and it sets up events later on. But he says to Chantal, "I need you and Hutch." This is a character we don't see at this point, but we do later on, of course. Uh, um,
Hmm.
I need you to see me in a couple of days. I got some job for you or something. That sets up.
He wants her. He doesn't need her. Remember that.
Yeah, that's you're dead right, and yeah. Uh, um, so yeah, I think. Correct me if I'm wrong, Annie. I think we've covered
Yeah, because we went kind of
most of
like
it.
not in chronological order because we've mentioned the whole non-existent, when the
Yes,
doppelganger evolution of the arm, it's just like
that
non-existent,
was good.
which
That
I
bit, I
love. I
love
love
that bit.
that quote. It's like, yeah, obviously, it's like, error 404
Yeah,
on the internet. It's kind of like no connection. I don't know. I like it.
I do like that bit. Yeah, that was great. Um,
And then
uh,
you see the chromatics
yes, so this is
and
our
which is
first
great.
musical interlude of the series at this point, because we didn't get one in part one, at the end of part one, but this is the first
Yeah,
one we get, one of many,
yeah,
in the Roadhouse. Yeah, so we get
yeah.
to see
With
the Roadhouse.
Freddie and his glove, but I hadn't even noticed Freddie that much. I noticed James, and I was like,
Yeah,
he's just talking to somebody, a lot of new people in there. You have no idea like what Freddie means by then when you see him, and you hardly notice his glove. But it's
yeah. You
all
don't,
in front of us like this.
now, of course, within hindsight, we pick up on all these little details. I
Exactly.
see him more, I hear him more. I didn't when I first saw it. I didn't pick up on him really at all. I was
Hmm.
just looking at James really, or the
Exactly.
I didn't really pick, but now we do.
Yeah.
It's
Exactly.
interesting
That's
when you
it.
look back on it how things are different, how you observe things. It's really intriguing.
For sure.
Um,
For sure. And you know, yeah, and then there's that sentence about James that he's always been cool, and you,
yeah,
you realize
Shelley
that people
says
are kind
that.
of mean to him as well. Like people are just like, this guy is weird,
Yeah,
but he's not. He just sings some very strange songs, but
and it's
he's cool.
interesting. Shelley says don't be mean to him because he was involved in a motorcycle accident.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
And that
so at
makes
least
him
it
a
tells
bit
us
more
something.
quieter these days or something. Yeah, as a result.
Mhm.
So we learn a little tiny bit about what happened to him in the interim. That he's had some kind
Yeah,
of accident and has made him maybe a little bit more quiet and withdrawn.
yeah,
Um,
and you notice that he's got a crush on this girl, on this woman.
yeah,
It's probably part of his hurdy luck, right? Fall in love with that
yeah,
married woman.
yeah, yeah. Why does he always go for the married ones?
Yeah,
He's got to think about that.
yeah, come on. Anyway, but yeah, and the song with the chromatics, I mean, I think that was important in a way because it was the first time in Twin Peaks that you see something like a musical performance like this.
Yeah,
Um, it's kind of ethereal but modern and funky at the same time, and the singer is absolutely stunning as well. And
yeah,
it's such a great song. I think it gives a really I mean, I've loved all the Roadhouse songs performances this season, and that was a good start. Especially after hearing the silence, well, the gramophone on the previous episode, which was brilliant.
it
Then you
was.
get that
And then
powerful
you get this
song.
completely different kind of. vibe. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's interesting, as you said, Annie. It's a modern kind of electronic-y sound
Hmm.
song,
Yeah.
but it still has that old kind of Twin Peaks feel to it, hasn't it?
Yeah. Eerie.
It has a kind of the kind of old Roadhouse feel to it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's not Britney Spears, you know.
No.
There's more to it. There's
Yeah.
like a mystery and a depth
Yeah.
at the same time.
Yeah.
It's perfect. And you see like a new generation as well, you know, seeing like contemporary real bands. And they probably, I mean, people who follow the Chromatics, even though they might not necessarily be Twin Peaks fans, like they probably heard about it and then paid attention to Twin Peaks maybe. So you do that with Lizzie and all the other
Yeah.
performers. It's cool. It's gathering like a new generation of fans, I feel.
I think so. Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. So
I think,
that's basically that is the end of that episode of two. We
yep,
basically end on that, or on the performance, and
yep.
the credits roll, and then we learn about some of the characters in it, because some of them aren't mentioned by name.
Hmm.
So we see, Jake,
And you see
Freddie
Red,
Sykes, and things like that, and you know,
yeah. And Red just like looking at Shelly being like, pow, you know, bang, bang or
yeah,
something.
yeah.
Like,
We don't know
such
anything
a
about
nice
him
scene
yet.
there.
We didn't know at this point whether he was coming back in it, that character.
Hmm.
They just sort of look at each other over, gaze at one another, and it's sort of a little
Yeah,
bit, there's something between them, at that point.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And of course, he's played by Balthazar Getty, um,
Hmm.
Red,
Yep.
who of course was in Lost Highway. Um,
Hmm.
so yeah, so James is cool. He's always been cool.
Always.
Yeah.
And Freddie is super cool too, so but he wasn't always cool, Freddie. He just became cool when he met with a giant and his glove. Then he became like
That's it.
the
Yeah, that
king
was
of
like
cool.
James was like that. That was his destiny. Yeah.
It was brilliant.
So that is it. We've covered parts one and two, the beginning of
Yay.
season three after 25, 26 year gap. I still can't believe, even when I even look at it now, Annie,
Hmm.
can't believe it even came back. It still,
Right.
it still seems slightly surreal to me.
It's a goddamn miracle.
I never thought, I honestly, and I hate that, and I didn't want to sound like, you know, putting a downer on it, but I mean, there was a time when I never thought we'd ever see this day. We'd never see new Twin Peaks in our lifetimes.
I know, right? It's precious.
It's incredible,
And
isn't it?
and for me, I wasn't originally a fan. I was too young and I didn't speak English, so I didn't know Twin Peaks in the 90s. But as
Yeah,
soon as I finished season two, I heard they're going to make one 25 years later. So I had a really good timing. I didn't have to suffer so much.
yeah,
So I feel like I'm a fraud. I'm sorry. I wish I could share those 20 something painful years, but I think it's amazing the
it is.
fact that and the fans carried like they kept being obsessed with it the whole time. I'm very thankful for those crazy fans. I've become one of them now, but you know,
That's great. Yeah, Annie, thank you so much for joining me on this and talking about these episodes. It's been really really lovely having you here.
it was really my pleasure. And the more we talk about it, the more like I feel like I need to watch it again and again and again. So
Yeah.
anytime you want to discuss this, just let me know. I'll be more than happy to speak with you, Frank.
Ah, brilliant, Annie. Thank you. Yeah, as I say, we've got quite a lot to get through yet, so there'll be plenty of opportunities for you to come back. That's for sure. And join me.
Awesome.
Yeah. And thanks, guys, for listening. Take care of yourselves. Bye.